What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today we're going to talk to you about Faraday Future. I want to break it down on what the hell happened today, go over some of the data points, and just my true thoughts to Omar's interview. So I'm going to go over all the things that you need to know, but first make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So I'm going to start off with more so the data points and then move over to me ranting about the interview and stuff like that. So it did go down 9.54%. So I think today was more of a shock to a lot of individuals because they assumed that the interview was going to be sufficient to really push it above 50 cents. In my opinion, I've been saying this over the last several trading days based on my own specific experience. You need an 8K. And when I've done interviews with CEOs, more so on my other channel, there's always been an 8K submitted. That does indicate that new information was going to be coming out. As soon as I saw the interview was released and no 8K was out, I already knew they weren't going to say much. And YT actually did even say that during his interview, or his part, saying that I can't share any new information. So it was just more regurgitation. If you're new to investing, definitely they added a lot of, I guess, clarification on some things. But yeah, I'm going to touch on all that. As of today, no official news, no SEC filings, nothing like that. So it was just piggybacking off of the broader market, which largely was negative. So you did have initial jobless claims coming out first thing. So that really kickstarted the downtrend today because it came in hotter than anticipated. And one thing that's been happening over the last several trading days, there's been a rotation out of riskier stocks. So it's kind of a weird circumstance because you do have now optimism associated to rate cuts for the September meeting. And then at the same time, you're now having a rotation out of, for instance, riskier plays into stocks that have more liquidity. So a little bit better balance sheets and stuff like that. And in all honesty, Faraday definitely doesn't have the best balance sheet by any means. So it's just a very unfortunate circumstance. So I think today did throw off a lot of investors. Today, shorts didn't really do all that much. They increased to roughly around 33,000 shares. 9.04% of the free floats being shorted works out to be 39.52 million shares overall are being shorted. Utilization 64.39, short score 65.96, and then cost to borrow average a little bit higher than yesterday. That is 12.73. And through IBKR does indicate still in excess of 10 million shares. So you can even see just first thing like shorts increased around about 2.6 million. Then they started to return as a lump sum. So majority of the volume today was simply algorithmic trading. Market makers just piggybacking off of kind of the situation that the market was in. So all in all, not necessarily the best. Looking at options though, 144,000 in calls, 63,000 in puts. Sentiment wise, 56% of all the options being done so far today, or I guess the market's closed, so today, were bearish. So not necessarily the best. And this is the current open interest for the calls. So 29,000 at that 50-cent strike price and then 36,000 at that one. So yeah, in order for Faraday to really have a somewhat of a gamma squeeze, it would have had to have closed above $1. But yeah, in reality, it's not really much. Keep in mind, even if it does close above that 50-cent mark, I would have figured that there would be a lot more optimism associated to the whole interview and people would be buying calls. But even if all of those were kind of in the money, that does only work out to be around 2.9 million shares. So kind of a drop in the bucket. Today, though, there was 50.85 million shares overall being shorted and works out to be 131.07 million. So all in all, not the best chain of events for today. So that's basically a quick summary of what really affected Faraday, what affected the broader market, what shorts did, and everything that you need to know. So with that said, let's get right to the interview. So I'm not going to play the interview or anything like that. I'm sure you guys have seen it for the most part, but there was some key things that I did say that needed to be asked, which Omar, I do got to give it to him. Round of applause. He did a very good job. And so, yeah, I don't know if he's done interviews in the past, but regardless, even if this was his first one, he did a very good job, if you ask me. So he did ask a lot of the key points. He did mention in there, I think when he was speaking with 𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧, that clearly their legal team vetted the questions, which that's what happens, right? Whenever I've done an interview in the past, their legal team goes through all the questions I'm going to be kind of asking. And even if I go off topic, sometimes they don't like certain things, right? Because if not, they have to do an 8K or whatever else. It has to be by the book. So yeah, you could tell that Omar was kind of restricted based on the questions that he was asking. And there was some wording. So for those of you that obviously can tell, I overthink some things. And sometimes rightfully so. And when it comes down to CEOs, it's how they word things. So leading up to this interview, a lot of investors were under the impression that we were just waiting for kind of the penmanship on the whole UAE deal. But one thing that 𝗪𝗧𝗧 did say is that they are looking for partners. So I'm sure a lot of people did kind of miss that. Very, very subtle nuance in what they said, but they are looking. They are not kind of figuring out the terms. So as far as a UAE deal, I think that in all honesty, that is off the table. And I'm not here to spread FUD. I can honestly care less. I just like to give it to you guys how I see it. So by him saying that, I think it's not necessarily the best. They didn't YT talked on how bridging is important, but didn't really give any details on where that's at. I did a video earlier today, so this is going to be my second Faraday video. But in my first one, I kind of alluded to how Rivian and obviously Faraday could have a partnership where that would be under the bridging umbrella, beneficial in both companies' case. But like, it'd be nice if YT came out and said, yes, this is what it's all about. One thing that I do have as a pet peeve is, and this is why I feel like I would like to do an interview, but the thing is, I don't fit the mold. I like to ask the difficult questions, and sometimes, no different than in the comments or whatever else, I like to call out BS. So for instance, 𝗪𝗧𝗧 was kind of explaining how raising the authorized share count is beneficial for the company because in turn, like, they're pretty much at their max right now and they need money. So that kind of alludes to that they're going to be diluting. Obviously Omar got it that it's not a lump sum, it's going to be sporadic when need be, as 𝗪𝗧𝗧 likes, or he did say he'd rather have a limited amount of money than all this money, kind of different mentality. But in reality, like, that's not what market wants to hear. Like I've already shown you, companies are being punished for basically relying on debt. Any liquid companies and good amount of cash, good balance sheets, they are getting rotating and having a lot of money kind of moving to them right now. So Faraday is just stuck. And so in reality, we didn't really get a good update on, for instance, pivoting. They didn't really talk on UAE. Well, they did. They said a lot of things, but they didn't really say what investors wanted to hear or what big money did want to hear as well. So bigger entities didn't really even touch Faraday today. So they didn't also talk on the bridging. So the key points they didn't really bring up. They just, in reality, brought up things that were more piggybacking off of, for instance, the upcoming shareholder meeting, which is slated for the 31st. So in essence, I wasn't really a big fan of that because there's one thing that did come out. It was actually right over here. So this news that came out October the 15th. I know that's kind of a long time ago, but in here, they did say that they were no longer going to be pursuing the toxic lenders clearly to benefit shareholders, because as I've brought up, a lot of these notes that seems like Faraday seems to be heavily relying on, that is very toxic, and one thing that's been very damaging to Faraday and their bottom line because of those convertible kind of aspects to the notes. So yeah, I think all in all, like, Faraday just kind of portrayed the interview as what they saw as justified, which in Faraday's mind, the only thing that they care about right now is pretty much this right here. So based on the last SEC document, you see a definitive 14A where it kind of just talks on these two things. So literally they actually did make this PDF 9 pages long just for proposal number 3 and proposal number 4. So the whole reverse stock split and raising of the authorized shares. So in essence, I think the whole interview was just more so associated to this, and for them to get the point across on why investors need to vote in favor of it. So yes, they obviously had to talk on UAE and whatever else, but they didn't give concrete information. Rather, at least to me, it stood out as they don't really have anything planned. They don't have any tentative deal, no actual bridging partner, nothing. So very unfortunate. Again, my interpretation of the interview will be completely different from yours. You guys might be ecstatic based off of that, but I wasn't really a fan, especially how it was worded, terminology, and stuff like that. So let me know your thoughts. What did you like from Omar's interview? Was there anything that stood out to you that you really liked? Like, obviously there was a lot of talk on the technology front, the kind of lower priced vehicle, not the Pivot, but the $100,000 vehicle. They kind of talked on that for a little bit. So yeah, I think all in all, it was good for new investors, but for those investors that were really wanting to hear UAE, bridge, and stuff like that, they're a little bit disappointed. But what do I know, right? I'm not a financial advisor. You guys do your own due diligence at the end of the day. So let me know your thoughts on Faraday. Give yourself a shout out. Did you buy? Did you sell? What did you do with Faraday? And one final thing, take advantage of this promo. Simply sign up for a new account, throw $100 at it, and they give you 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So this is a kick-ass deal. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.